Well, we're excited today to talk about a topic that's gaining a lot of momentum, and that is why employers are considering pet benefits more now than ever before. We know HR leaders are always looking for new ways to support their teams, expand their benefit portfolios, and pets are a bigger part of that story than ever before. And we're going to use the chat feature a little bit today. Feel free to drop in any questions along the way. We will have a Q&A at the end, but the audio is muted for everyone except for myself and Erin. So if you have a question or a great pet story, feel free to use the chat for that. And also wanted to share, we will send a recording and the slides out tomorrow. So for all registrants, they will receive an email with that information tomorrow. Okay, let's see. We'll go ahead and do this too. A little icebreaker for everyone just to kick things off. Since today's call is about the role pets play in our lives and our workplaces, we would love to get to know about your extended furry family friends. If you have a pet at home, not drop their name in or their breed, a fun fact or story about them. And if you don't have a pet, maybe drop in your dream pet. My dream pet is a little mini Highland cow, because
Mm.
I'm in my TikTok era, and so that's all you see on there are the cute Highland cows. But we also have a horse. She doesn't stay here in our yard, but we are a big pet family here as well. Hollywood, a German Shepherd, Bernie Doodle named
14
Frank.
years old.
Yes. So Ronnie, I have a 14-year-old geriatric Labradoodle, um, and I don't know what I'm going to do without her. But Piper, Jackson, Jasmine, my goodness, Athena has a lot of pets. 4-year-old mixed pup from Tijuana. That's super cool.
Kristie, my pet story in our vows. So, as you can imagine, my wife and I, both big pet people. My wife vowed to me that the number of pets would never exceed the number of human beings in the household. And about a year and a half after that, we were blessed to find out we were pregnant with twins. And it was the first ultrasound, we're crying and processing. And literally walking out of the clinic, my wife looked at me and said, "Does this mean we can get two more dogs?" So that was a
That's
loophole
great.
that I didn't really consider. We actually have held it to two dogs. We have the two kids and actually a third. We went for a third kid before a third pet, but probably at some point that third pet will be in the cards.
So that vow was just out the window real with one
Hmm.
visit to the doctor.
That's
Wow,
right.
that's a fun story. We've got a Roxy Yorkie. That's fun. Roxy's a super fun name. We once had a horse named Roxy. Coco and Frankie. Gotta love a little Frenchie. Ooh, Snow. That's fun. Okay, I could do this all day, guys, but I know you would probably prefer we jump into the content. So thank you so much for sharing. If you're just joining and we're dropping in the names of our pets and their breeds or a little funny story about them, so feel free to continue to do that. It's clear pets are a big part of families, which is exactly what we're here to talk about. So real quick, we'll do some quick introductions. I am Kristie Cook. I am a account executive and team lead on our client success team here at Nava Benefits. Believe it or not, I am a true benefits geek. I have been doing this, been in the benefits industry for 23 years now, and this is actually what I went to college to do. I was a business major and just kind of fell in love with risk management and insurance. And so here I am. Erin, I hope your story is a little more interesting than mine.
Well, honestly, since the third grade, I wanted to lead a small voluntary benefits company in the pet space. So, no, I'm just kidding. I uh, I spent most of my career in what I now lovingly call non-pet healthcare. So I started on the human side and worked in medical devices and was a consultant for large healthcare providers for several years. But I've always been a passionate animal lover and joined UPC about 5 years ago. And it was kind of this marriage of a space that I was really passionate about in animal welfare and animal care with a kind of a healthcare-like system that I was very comfortable with. So it's been a great ride ever since.
Awesome. And I love Diana's comment about when her dog passed, her supervisor let her take bereavement. That's just amazing. I love to hear that. I'm definitely going to need a mental health day when that day comes, which I hope is no time soon. Little Daisy is 14 and wearing her shoes and happy as a clam. Oh goodness. Six cats, one dog. So fun. Okay, I'm gonna close my chat for a minute because I'm gonna be distracted with that. But here's just a quick agenda about what we're going to talk about today. We'll dig into why pets are showing up on HR teams' agendas and what's driving that shift. We'll then talk about a business case on how offering pet benefits can help support recruitment, retention, and company culture. And we'll also walk through what pet benefits actually look like today, since there's more available than we've ever had before. It used to just be strictly, individual plans, and there are many more options out there, which Erin is here to talk to us about today. After that, we'll cover how these programs really work for HR and employees. And finally, we'll share some tips to boost engagement and adoption so your investment and your time and energy you put in to implementing these plans pays off. And again, we're going to take time for Q&A at the end, but if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop those in the chat along the way. I'm going to turn my chat back on now that I've opened that up. Um, so some of you might already be clients of Nava or you may be familiar with our name, but for those who haven't heard about us yet, here's what makes Nava a little different. At Nava, we see ourselves as your modern benefits co-pilot, or I like to say your benefits bestie. That means we combine really smart technology along with the best and brightest in the industry that we've kind of cherry picked from our larger competitors. We have an AI-powered benefits platform with real human expertise behind that. We don't just hand you software and say, here you go. At Nava, you get a combination of both incredible technology and very tenured client success teams that help you and your HR teams. And we're not just here for annual renewals. I love to say that. We're not just here for the Super Bowl of benefits that comes around once a year. We're here to support HR teams, their employees, and especially their families all year long. Whether it's answering tough questions, helping with tricky situations, or making sure everyone gets the most out of their benefits. Bottom line here, we want to make your life easier as an HR professional and help your finance team control cost and ensure your benefits actually deliver value for your people.
And just a very brief bit about us, United Pet Care. So I think most people are probably at this point familiar with pet insurance. We are a little bit of a different take. And so we're actually closer to an HMO or a direct primary care organization for fur babies. Very long story short, we go negotiate discounts off of usual and customary fees with in-network vets. And that's meaningful for a couple of reasons. One, it allows us to distribute as a true group product, something that we'll talk about later, but we know that the double-edged sword of adding new benefits is that it can create a part-time job with administration headache and keeping up with payroll deductions and things like that. And so our product is flat rate. Every pet qualifies and every pet pays the same rate. So the other reason that that's meaningful is Kristie for like your Daisy, Tara for Casper, every pet pays the same rate regardless of age, breed, pre-existing conditions. We actually have a 21-year-old cat that's on the plan. And Athena, I saw that you mentioned it's encouraging to see the cat's ages. It really is an amazing time. A cat born today actually has a life expectancy that's almost double a cat born 30 years ago, which is incredible, but that certainly means that a longer period of senior life and just potentially much more expensive end-of-life care as we're kind of stretching out the lifespan of these pets. And that's the reason that we exist, because we saw a big gap in coverage, particularly for older pets and pets with pre-existing conditions. And we also felt like there could be a better model for servicing employer groups specifically. We've been around since 1996. We work with thousands of employers across the country, and as well as incredible broker partners like Nava. And so I'll start with kind of setting the table about why we're all here. Kristie, you spoke to it very well. I would say pet benefits are now becoming really a growing part of a modern benefits package. 95% of their pet parents consider their pet to be a family member, and actually a full 91% of employees would consider leaving or have left their job if it interferes with caring with their pet. The joke that my team has heard me say too many times is that plants are the new pets, pets are the new kids, and kids are the new exotic animals. You have to be rich and a little crazy to think about having kids these days. But the reality is that especially now for the younger portion of the American workforce, millennials and Gen Z, they either delaying having children or are not having children at all, and pets truly are considered to be those starter children. And my favorite statistic from a human resources perspective is that now actually more working Americans have recurring veterinary care or pet care bills than have vision care bills. So then wear glasses or contacts. And again, focusing on the left-hand side of that chart, that ratio is actually 2 to 1 for Gen Z and millennials. So one of the things that we challenge our broker partners to think about and our HR partners as well is, are you presenting a boomer benefits package to a largely millennial and Gen Z workforce? There's been, I would say, kind of a steady consistency with voluntary benefits for the last two, three, four generations, but the needs and the priorities of the workforce have changed. And of course, I'm a little bit biased, but we think one of those shifts, another one is mental health and financial wellness, is that now this giant preponderance of the American workforce do consider themselves to be pet parents. And that 23 million number, since 2020, obviously we know what happened in Q1 of 2020. But one of those kind of interesting second order effects of the pandemic, a lot of people were working from home, looking for companionship. It was a very isolating and lonely time for people. And so we adopted pets in record numbers and have retained those pets who are now kind of creeping up on that senior pet status. So a lot of those COVID puppies are getting to be 5, 6, 7 years old. Care is getting a little bit more expensive now. The other thing that we track that may be new to this group is the concept of petflation, which is an actual thing. There's a basket of pet-related goods that get measured, and with all of the attention, rightfully so, that's been paid to core inflation, petflation over the last several years has actually outpaced core inflation by about 2.5 times. And so, these numbers kind of in isolation may not be meaningful, but I think where the rubber meets the road is that half of employees, I think everybody's familiar with this stat, can't afford an expected expense of any kind of $500 or more. I think where that really gets localized with the younger workforce is they rescued these pets. Maybe a lot of first-time pet owners that don't have a great idea of how expensive pets can be and the costs that are associated with it. Everything is kind of well and good into the puppy and kitten phase, and then you're hit with that first vet bill. And as anybody who's an HR stakeholder, here knows, or a pet parent, you have that sick pet at home, and it is very akin to having a sick child. So you have an employee that's distracted, that's potentially taking time off work, and that is going to be under a significant amount of financial stress, that in growing numbers are turning to their employer to say, how can you be a partner to help me through this, which to me is just as real an expense and just as real a stressor as if I have to take my kid into the pediatrician.
Good stuff. Good
Yeah.
stats there, Aaron. Thank you. So a quick poll, if you guys don't mind participating, just drop your answer right in here on the poll that popped up. Does your company currently offer any kind of pet benefit? And we'll give everyone just a few seconds to respond, and then we'll see what it looks like, what our results look like. We're going to have a few polls as we go. I'm a big advocate of polls. I think it helps break up just listening to Aaron and myself just rattle on. So let's see what our results look like. So pretty close to a 50-50 split there. Aaron, how does that compare with what you would typically see in terms of number of employers offering a pet benefit?
So I would say now the balance is actually tipped. The majority of the work employers report offering some sort of pet related benefit. Now that is certainly varies by sector and company size and things like that. But now over half of employers say that they do offer or will in the coming year offer some sort of pet focused benefit.
Okay. So I think we're going to talk about a fun buzzword for HR teams coming up, which is ROI. So why does this make sense for us to spend our time and bandwidth implementing a new benefit? So pet benefits are practical to the point, all the points Erin addressed. You know, a lot, especially our younger generation, a lot more people have pets. They adopted them during the pandemic. And maybe now are realizing, oh, wow, I didn't know what I got myself into. So pet benefits can be a practical and be a real measurable value for your population. They're at low or no cost as an employer to offer. Pet benefits increase employee retention and loyalty. People stay longer when they feel like they're truly supported by their employer. These benefits can help reduce absenteeism. Employees are less likely to miss work due to pet emergencies when they feel supported. Supporting pets supports the total well-being of your workforce, including physical, emotional, and financial health. Offering pet benefits helps your company stand out to top talent. It shows that you care about the whole person and not just their work. Um, and, you know, I've worked at home since 2017, so I'm a pre-pandemic work from home girl, and I don't know what I would do without my pet. I mean, it's just me here all day, you know, 40, 60 hours a week before my kids are in and out of the house. And so she is just an incredible coworker. And so I know many of you feel the same way about your cats and dogs and other animals. And I love when I'm on a Zoom meeting and someone's cat walks across the keyboard. No longer do we cringe when that happens or when the doorbell rings and the dog barks. It's just become a new way of life. So I think the takeaway here is that pet benefits are a smart investment that really is just a time investment of getting it implementing and choosing the right plan, but not a financial investment for an employer. And it leads to happier, healthier, and more loyal employees. So another quick poll for you coming up. What is most important to you as you evaluate voluntary benefits for your organization? Is it the cost to the employee, the ease of administration, or the employee demand? So if I were answering this, I would say ease of administration because part of my job is helping our clients navigate administrative hurdles. And so we'll talk about this more in a bit, but when you offer a voluntary benefit, if I have a vendor trying to sell that to me and my client, the first thing I'm asking is, what is the administrative lift? But let's see what our results show. I'm in good company. Yes, we do not want to cause more of a headache for HR teams. Perfect. Would you agree with that, Erin? Do you hear a lot of feedback about what does this mean for me? What do I have to do as an HR leader?
Absolutely. I mean, I think HR teams today are expected to do more with less and balancing demands along with kind of a proliferation of voluntary benefits over the course of the last couple of years. So it is I think oftentimes it can go unspoken because it feels like, it's a consideration that's not employee centric, but it really is because at the end of the day, these need to be effectively administered, and the teams only have so many hours in the day. Yeah, I would say really all three of these things probably are important to some level. So you don't want to make trade-offs if you can avoid it. But
Mhm.
certainly it sits with HR because I think everybody knows this. If HR doesn't have the capacity to really stand behind something, then it's going to affect employee and client demand. It's going to affect the employee experience. So there's that trickle-down effect if HR doesn't have the capacity or isn't bought in to offering the benefit because it just makes it difficult or degrades the experience for the employee as well.
Yep, I concur, Erin. Thank you. So a few more stats for you, and these are really staggering just in terms of the consistency. I'll let you guys read over those. But really, what I take from this is that strong culture is a magnet for top talent. Top talent does not want to work in a toxic environment. They've been there, done that, and the market is broad. They can go find somewhere where they feel like they're being supported. So strong culture keeps employees engaged and including benefits in your package is a simple, meaningful way to support your employees. Here at Nava, we have a Slack channel that is dedicated to just pets. And so we hop in there and drop pictures of our pets in costumes at Halloween or when they do something, a little short video of them doing something funny. And it's amazing how something that simple really impacts culture and morale. So if you don't have that, I encourage you to find a platform for your population to share their pet fur baby pictures and videos. It's one of my favorite channels here at Nava. But just to sum up this slide, 82% of HR professionals believe in pet benefits in terms of recruitment and retention. 87% agree it fosters loyalty. 84% of employees at organizations that offer pet benefits are more satisfied. So I think it really speaks to the culture of an organization. We have one other poll. I'll let you take this one, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I would say for a long time, it was, pet insurance had kind of existed very much on the fringes of the voluntary benefit world, and it was really kind of the only game in town. Now there are a wider range of options that are available than ever before, kind of reflecting the attention that's now been paid to the space or the demand that's come from an employee perspective. And, we could go kind of 1,000 miles deep on any of these, and certainly would be open to in the Q&A. But just at a high level, I wanted to provide an overview for those that may not be familiar of some of the different models that are available today. So pet insurance is the one that I would say probably most folks are familiar with. It is technically, or it is a property and casualty product, although it really works or looks more like a health insurance product. And that is generally accident and illness related coverage for unexpected vet bills. That is an individual product, which just means that the pet does get rated. They have to qualify, and then each individual pet pays an individual rate. The pet discount or membership plan, which is really kind of what UPC's core product is categorized as, is more of a network based. So you do have to go in network, as I mentioned, but the flat rated, and it basically gives you for generally a lower average rate, about 30% of the average rate of pet insurance, you can get discounts at participating providers on any services, both wellness and up to and including emergency services. Another one that has come on that oftentimes gets rolled into one or both of the first two is virtual vet support. So I smile a little bit when I say this, but telehealth, obviously everybody knows, has been a big boom again post-COVID, and those same services are available. Looks a little different. You're obviously not having Daisy up on the camera describing her symptoms, but it's amazing what now you can do with a really good iPhone camera, or even just chatting in and helping a veterinary professional. I always, use the Halloween candy analogy. It's 10 o'clock at night and your dog got into your kid's Halloween candy basket, and you need to know, how many bite-sized Snickers bars before you need to be really worried. Anybody who's gone into an emergency vet knows that you can spend $500 very easily just to cross the door and to get the pet assessed, when oftentimes that is not necessary. And so there are now several different kind of flavors of offerings, but I'd say that's kind of the most classic one. There are also pet wellness plans, which, as the name would suggest, is just basically you can prepay for some pet wellness services and get reimbursed. It's still a reimbursement model, but with specific categories. And then the one that I put kind of all the way out on the fringe, because just in the interest of full transparency, we do not allow pets in our workplace, even being as kind of pet centric, an employer as we possibly can be. But you can accept pets into the workplace. I don't remember who called it out in the chat, but I tell you, other pet related perks are becoming much more commonplace as well. And so paternity leave, bereavement leave for a pet. So we actually call it paternity leave, where you get a couple of days of PTO, and then also some work from home time, knowing those first couple of weeks are really important when breaking in and acclimating a pet. Other pet related discounts, and then pet related offices as well. So as you can see, really there's now this gamut of offerings that run the spectrum. Again, probably a little bit biased here, but back to using the vision care analogy, my view is most employers find it's pretty reasonable to offer maybe one, or certainly one, but maybe two or more vision-related benefits. And we firmly believe that in the next couple of years, that same expectation will be set, where there's a range of options made available to employees, just given for how many employees this benefit is relevant.
So I have an off the cuff quick question, Aaron. Don't mean to
Yeah.
put you on the spot, but with the pet discount platform, which is similar to what you have at UPC, how often do those rates change? Are you seeing them adjust with inflation? And if so, is that once annually that those rates change, or do they stick for the duration of the contract?
It's a great question. Very rarely, I'll speak only from our standpoint. We change rates only when we're adding a significant value add to the membership. And so the last time that we raised rates was when we bundled in a televet provider. So we now offer those services as well. Kind of the nice thing about the negotiated rates off of usual and customary fees is that that value, increases with inflation, but that value still
Mm.
holds. So we actually, our underlying costs don't change. We're just actually able to pay, pass on greater savings as costs rise, which, is an unfortunate reality for a consumer. But if those rates are going up, then you may as well try to get a discount where you can.
Okay, real quick before we go to the next slide, on that note, I just wanted to share just some personal experience I've seen for clients. So, when you have a pet insurance plan that is an individual plan but offered through the employer, one administrative hurdle, if it is payroll deducted, is that those rates are fluid and the plan years are fluid. So, that means it's not going to be a January 1 renewal. It's going to be whatever date Kristie Cook, the employee, was hired and elected those benefits. And so you have this constant rate change going on. And so you have to have a really good process or feed in place with your pet insurance carrier so that you're able to update those deductions and pull the premiums correctly. And that has been the number one hurdle I've seen with clients in pet insurance.
Yep. And the last thing that we want to do is create a part-time job for somebody that's really doing
Yes,
something that's, quite frankly, as still an important benefit, but a nice to have benefit.
exactly. Okay. I got a little ahead of myself on the last slide. Now it's time for another poll. For the audience, what is your top challenge when rolling out new benefits? Not just pet benefits, but in general. Is it too much admin or limited bandwidth? Is it the cost, lack of employee interest, or limited guidance or support from my broker? I think number one is going to be really high on the list. Right, let's see what it looks like, Autumn. Ah, there you go. Too much admin or bandwidth. So yes, you're right, Aaron. HR professionals are being asked to do way more with way less headcount typically. And so it's hard for HR professionals to wrap their mind around anything that's not necessary or anything extra. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. How can we make offering pet benefits a little bit easier, or what you should consider if you're thinking about adding it to your portfolio?
And I think
So,
the oh,
oh,
sorry, just
go
to, I
ahead.
think the lack of employee interest is a very real one too. And we'll talk about just engagement strategies, but I will say, I'm sure everybody on this call can relate. Just engaging the workforce on a benefits package writ large can be a real challenge. And I think that, at the end of the day, the worst case outcome is we roll something out and nobody participates and it feels like it falls flat. So I think there's some tips and tricks that Kristie will share, and I can offer some color there as well. Because there have been studies that have shown that once you get people in that motion, because you find a low dollar, highly relevant benefit, it actually makes them more inclined to participate in other benefits. And so the rising tide, they kind of say, oh, well, now I'm using this and I got some value out of it. So maybe next year I'm going to go back and participate in some benefits that I hadn't considered before.
Definitely. It's all about word of mouth and a good
Right.
experience, right? Okay, so what to look for in a pet benefit solution? So things you want to consider, and most of these are true for any benefit you're considering adding. You definitely want to look for seamless integration with your current HR and ben admin systems. So you want to make sure you can automate. We don't want to add a manual process that becomes a part-time job, to Aaron's point. You also want to prioritize simplicity. And this is true for me and my clients. Like if they're considering accident, hospital, and indemnity critical illness, I want those plans to be as simple as possible, meaningful, but simple. You don't need a high low. You don't need, three options for each benefit. It just gets lost in the shuffle and it's very challenging to administer. And then it's very important for it to be clear to employees. They need to be able to easily understand what the product is for, how it can help them, and be meaningful to them. Transparent pricing is also key. You don't want a huge price chart that you have to, peer review and put in your benefits guide or manually key somewhere. It needs to be simple and transparent. I'm a big advocate for pet benefits because in client surveys, we are always going to see it. And it's probably going to be at the top of the list near tuition reimbursement or childcare, if I had to guess. But yes, we see it literally on every single employee survey. And we do conduct employee surveys for all of our clients here at Nava as often or as little as they want and do all the heavy lifting there as well. Another poll, guys. How much did you spend last year at the vet? And I know for me, I think I'm probably in the 1,000 to 2,500 range just for my one geriatric labradoodle. But let's see what the crowd says here. And those of you with multiple cats, multiple dogs, I'm sure you can relate. I'm guessing the third bucket's going to be the highest, Aaron.
That's about in line with our average, when
Yeah.
we survey our members. Yep.
Yep. I mean, just to get their teeth cleaned, to get their vaccines, all the normal stuff, plus one little mishap, and you're really encroaching on that 2,500 number. Okay, thank you guys so much for participating. This helps keep it moving and keep it fun for us. I think you're up next, Aaron.
Yeah. So mentioned it a little bit earlier, but as pets are getting older, I think, that stage of life that the majority of American pets are reaching is going to be naturally a more expensive one. And it seems like this group is maybe unfortunately very well versed in the expense of veterinary care. But I think one of the things that I, didn't have a full appreciation for is just a little aside, I first got introduced to the veterinary industry when I was working in the radiation oncology space. And we were selling about 3% of our equipment. And it's the same, multi-million dollar pieces of capital equipment into the veterinary space. Flash forward to today, that percentage is actually close to 20%. And so again, the positive trend in this is pets are living longer. We have a wider array of options available to treat pets. They actually are getting treatments for things like tumors and surviving and going on and living, long and high quality lives. But the very real costs associated with that, I think most people probably don't have a full appreciation for. Veterinarians are doctors. They graduate with on average about $300,000 in medical debt. And so I think, the American public probably has a little bit of a disconnect between how much I love my pet and realizing, what that care entails. That willingness to pay is really high, but the ability to pay oftentimes is compromised. And so again, that's really the reason that we exist in the marketplace and the reason that we feel an employee benefit can really provide meaningful, lasting value to employees who have that love, but maybe don't have the appreciation, the awareness, or the ability to pay for that care when it comes up. Chris, you also bring up a really good point, teeth cleaning and preventative and things. I'd say I always say, folks, if you're in that $0 to $500 bucket, you probably should have been in the bucket that was maybe a little bit higher than that. It is really easy to, skip on some of the preventative care. We're guilty of that, as human beings, right? I call it the ostrich defense, where you're worried about what a visit is going to cost you, so you don't go to the doctor, you don't go to the pet, you don't go to the vet, and then whatever that condition that may have been able to be treated for a relatively reasonable fee gets worse over time, it gets more expensive, and the worst case is the pet suffers in the interim. So the reason that our plan exists is we want to decrease the financial anxiety around a trip to the vet so that people do come early and often, and maybe you have a couple more, $500 to $1,000 years, but you avoid that $2,500 plus year because you're getting regular and routine care and diagnosing things before they become really big, really expensive problems.
Yep. Same as those preventive screens on the human side, Aaron. We
That's
can
right.
prevent the heart attack potentially if you go in for your annual physical.
That's right. Exactly. So we want to talk a little bit now about engagement best practices. So led into this a little bit before, but I would say, and again, Kristie, to your point, we can kind of abstract this up to just a voluntary benefits level, right? Enrollment can really be confusing. We are throwing a lot at folks during a very critical time. There's a pretty short window through which people have to make decisions. The major decisions of those are what I call kitchen table conversations. And so you only have so much kind of mental bandwidth and capacity left over. You really don't want at the end of the kind of tail end of the benefit stack to have a whole bunch of options that are really difficult to kind of determine if I'm going to see value out of this as an employee. Oftentimes, you can have a lot of claims and paperwork. Again, that's just creating an administrative burden on the employee that, as any HR stakeholder knows, can get bubbled up to HR. If there's questions, if they don't understand how something works, then their first call is the broker. So again, you've kind of created a part-time job for folks when really that maybe could be avoided with a more simple plan design. The other thing it can be about coverage. If coverage is unclear, cost and savings are unclear. Again, I think just in benefits, writ large, transparency is everybody's friend. The clearer, I think when you get into a really bad spot with employees is that there's a misalignment of expectations. And, we all know in this business that even if it was kind of spelled out, if it wasn't simple and clear to understand, probably in video format and infographic format, even if all the information was there, if it wasn't accessible to the employee, then it may as well not have been there at all. And when they go to actually try to use the benefit, then I would say, that then again, they come back to you as HR, they come back to their broker. And the last one that I want to really hit on is that employee engagement. And this is where, I think the pet benefit category can be a little bit of an unlock to better benefits participation overall. I say this with love. This is what I've chosen to do for my career. We have a benefit that I will admittedly say is maybe more interesting than it is important, when a lot of voluntary benefits are probably more important than they are interesting. It can be really difficult to get employees fired up about accidental death and dismemberment. I'm sure, Kristie, you can probably do it. I know you're very passionate and talented, but anybody who has a pet, probably 8 of the 10 photos on their phone are of that pet. Slack channels related to pets are very popular. And so, I always tell all of our clients, what comes with offering our benefit is stock photos of puppies and kittens that you should shamelessly use in all of your marketing materials to really, promote yourselves and the hard work that you're putting in to offer best in class benefits to your employees. And I think just naturally those, kind of that subject matter makes it easier for employees to engage. Obviously, we hope they participate, but even if they don't end up participating, it gives them to take a second look, or forces them to take a second look at their benefits package.
Yeah. Excuse me. This slide really pertains to all benefits. A lot of what we've talked about in terms of communication, engagement, ROI is applicable across the board in the benefits package. It's super important, regardless of the benefit you're offering, to communicate often and early, to make enrollment effortless. I mean, it's got to be automated. It's got to take 5 minutes or less. You're going to lose your audience. And you also have to keep benefits top of mind. And by that, just really, what is your population asking for? What is meaningful for them? What is meaningful for one might not be meaningful for another, or what's meaningful for the C-suite may not be meaningful for your boots on the ground workforce. So, you can't, if you're going to offer something, you've got to take the time and effort to make sure you have a good plan in place to launch it. And I believe the key to that is to a successful benefits program is having a strong relationship with a broker that is a true partner. They're not just a broker and a consultant for a few weeks a year as you're getting ready for open enrollment. They're truly there and engaged, and in the slower times in the year, really being creative and looking for ways to help HR teams improve the quality of their benefit program. So here at Nava, we've invested, of course, in technology as well as in top talent, so that we can fuel great outcomes for our clients. So I would urge you to nudge your broker and consultant to help you with this if this is something you want to consider. Don't just feel like you have to take it on your own. You should have support there. Okay, so next step to launch benefits. Know your people. know your population, survey your employees. If you don't have a platform for that internally, ask your broker or consultant to help you with that. Again, here at Nava, we will do all the heavy lifting on that. And then on the back end, give you a really nice 1 or 2 page deliverable that you can share with your organization so that they see you're actually reviewing the analytics that come out of that survey and also share it with your leadership team. Excuse me, lean into your broker. Let them do as much for you as possible. They may not be putting themselves out there to really support you in terms of HR and administration and the things in addition to open enrollment, but they really should be lock and step with you to help you make sure your implementation is successful. And then set yourself up for success. Again, I can't harp on communication enough. So, not just communicating in a benefit guide or in an open enrollment meeting, but getting creative and meeting your population where they are, whether that's email, Slack, even a snail mail, postcard in the mail, home, but just trying to even survey your population to know how they want you to communicate with them, and then lean into your broker to have them help you execute those communications.
I would say, well said, Kristie. And, just to add too, I would say keep your carriers accountable too. And that's also the job of your broker. But we are, all by extension parts of your team and extensions of your reputation as well. So even things like utilization, CSAT scores for the providers, the people that are using the benefit, is the carrier talking to them, getting their feedback? Are they ensuring that they are, signing up and activating their membership? Things like that, I think all become really important. But again, no feasible way that you all as a central HR team can do that. So know that you're not alone. And if it feels like you are alone, it probably means that there may be better partners out there from a broker and carrier perspective, because they should care more, certainly as much as all of you, in making sure that not just it doesn't end at open enrollment, but that these employees are engaged throughout the year and that they're really having a lasting positive experience with the benefits that you procured for them.
For sure. Okay, so just a quick summary of our top takeaways here. Pet benefits have become an essential for attracting and retaining top talent. I think 10 years ago, people would have thought I was crazy saying that, but in our post-COVID world is definitely the reality. Supporting every employee also means supporting every family member. And literally, when I sign thank you notes and Christmas cards, it's all of our names and Daisy right at the end. So she's definitely one of our family. Modern pet benefits can be a lot simpler than they used to be, and much simpler than other benefits to implement from an administrative standpoint. And the right solution can help boost morale. So it's the worst renewal season in 15 years. The Wall Street Journal put out an article last year. So if your message to your employees this year is our plans are not going to be as good or our rates are going up significantly, pet benefits might be a great option for you to have a morale boost in your messaging that doesn't cost your organization anything to implement. It's also a good time to do it when other things aren't changing, right? And if an employee doesn't have to pay attention to every minute detail through open enrollment, they may pay attention to your voluntary benefits offerings more this year than they will in a year with a lot of other change. So if you're interested in exploring pet benefits further, I would say reach out to our team. Autumn on the back end is going to send out the recording and contact information tomorrow on Thursday. But we're here, here to help. If you have another brokerage partner, then I would encourage you to lean into them and have them help you with this conversation. And with that, if you have questions, please drop them in. And I've got one for you real quick. Adam, let's see, or Aaron, can you address the discount and deal providers that include various pet services? Why is it better to offer directly rather than through a discount provider? I'll stop there and let you take that, Aaron.
I'm maybe not familiar, I guess, what a discount provider would be.
Discount.
So I will say our product, we don't license our network. The discounts that we negotiate, we don't sell to any third parties. I would maybe be wary if that is happening because it is an undifferentiated benefit, it's super important to us that our members or that anyone is only able to access it through their employer because that is the channel that we're committed to. So I would say if maybe the question is about the benefit or like kind of the discount marketplace, like a benefit hub or that kind of a thing. If that's
Hmm.
the case, I mean, I can tell you from firsthand experience, and Kristie, please, chime in as well. It just doesn't feel like a benefit. It's you go in, there's 10,000 options. It feels like I could
Right.
probably put my email address in and I could get some similar discounts. And uptake is very low. And it doesn't really register from an employee's perspective as this is something that my employer has done for me. Because quite frankly, there's not much that you have to do. It's punting a little bit on it and saying, hey, knock yourselves out. Here's 1-800-Flowers.com next to a pet insurance product, next to a gym membership.
Right.
And so I think it's one of those things that sounds great, but at the end of the day, you're kind of putting the onus on the employee to say, I'm going to sift through all of these, try to understand them myself, put my credit card in, and it just doesn't feel like something that's being done for them. It just feels like it's something that is there.
Okay. Um, I'm glad you picked up on that. Now that you mentioned the benefit hub and other discount programs, I was able to discern what the question was asking. That's a great question.
Yeah.
I agree. A one-stop shop is just that, but is it really, right? So I don't know. I've even had that come up where I rented a car and then after the fact was like, oh, I have a discount program. Like it didn't really resonate, to your point, Aaron, versus being part of the overall benefit package is more tangible, I think, to employees. Aaron, at UPC, do you guys have it set up or have an option for direct payroll deductions for your employers that offer these plans?
We do, yeah. So we are primarily a payroll deduction benefit. And just because of the flat pricing, we try to make it as easy as possible to facilitate that. We do offer a direct bill option as well. No, understanding that some employers may not have the ability to facilitate payroll deductions. The rates are a little bit higher just because, we incur some cost on our side and the participation rates tend to be lower. But we do offer both options.
Okay, good to know. I think
Yeah.
I could make an argument either way, but I think from an employee's perspective, it's nice to have that payroll deduction out of sight, out of mind. I know my rate's not going up, unless you make a significant investment into the offering. But and to me, in my experience, that's a lot simpler to administer versus a fluid individual plan setup where it's just constantly changing. It's very hard to get that right. If you are interested in payroll deductions, you want to look for a carrier like Aaron's UPC that keeps those rates essentially constant. Okay, great questions, guys. Feel free to drop in any others. One item I want to talk about that we didn't hit on is compliance. So, from your vantage point, Aaron, are there any unique compliance, legal, or regulatory concerns for pet benefits compared to all of the other very nuanced voluntary benefits available?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say it is from a pet insurance perspective, it is state by state. In general, most states have not provided particularly onerous disclosure requirements or things like that, but they are starting to. And honestly, I think it is a very good thing from a consumer perspective because there are a lot of plans where the language is not clear, it's not certain what you're getting. So now, boy, off the top of my head, I think Rhode Island, Oregon, there's probably 6 or 8 other states that have come up with these standardizations in terms of requirements for for pet insurance and what needs to be disclosed for the consumer. From a broker perspective, you do have to be property and casualty licensed to sell the pet insurance product as well. And then for all the rest of them, there really is not, from a discount plan standpoint, no regulations, no kind of considerations or compliance. It does not require, the category does not require to be filed from a Form 5500 perspective. So there's no additional filings or anything like that. And then the telehealth, actually, it depends on the provider. So if you're prescribing, there are some requirements in terms of establishing an in-state relationship or in-person
Mhm.
relationship. Again, that varies state by state as well. The provider that we partner with, we really focus on triage and some of the things that can be done across all 50 states so that you don't have to worry about that. So yeah, I'd say these are really good questions that you should push your broker if you're, asking about to make sure you're not stepping into something or that you know what the risks are. But in general, compared to other categories of voluntary benefits, the regulatory burden is pretty low.
Yeah, you answered that much better than I could. It's definitely not as complex as some of our other health related benefits, but still has its own state nuances. So that's really good to know. We have a question from Kim asking, does UPC integrate with Bamboo HR?
Good question. We have built out integrations. We do not have an out-of-the-box integration with Bamboo HR like we do with Employee Navigator and Ease and some of the others. But we do have the ability to build ourselves out within Bamboo HR and pull files down.
Do
Uh,
you have a one page or white page that Aaron speaks to what systems you do have integrations with, or are your out of box options limited to Ease and Navigator?
we do actually. We've got a one pager, and I will say actually that's the norm. So the majority of our integrations, we can integrate with every Ben admin system or every major Ben admin system, but we don't have the kind of out of the box with most. We have a white paper, and we also have it on our website listed as well. But
Cool.
one of the things that I found is there are a couple systems that are holding out and still charging clients for them. But really, the vast majority now, especially with our product, because the integration is so simple, because we're not asking for a
Mhm.
lot of information, that is generally cost-free to the employer.
In terms of the file integration?
That's right. Yeah. In terms of
Right,
setting
because
up
you don't even necessarily need breed or age, right? You don't need the
nothing.
street, all the
Yeah.
demographics where we have a census that's 42 columns
Yeah.
wide. It's much simpler.
Yeah. That's right.
Okay.
One thing, Kristie, actually, just to your question triggered a thought. Just to clarify, this is a post-tax benefit. That is a question that comes up. Our lobbying arm hasn't quite made its way, all the way into Washington to get that as a pre-tax benefit. Although there is some legislation that's been introduced to make certain pet-related expenses, HSA and FSA eligible. So for those that are curious, as of right now, it is a post-tax benefit. But that may be changing. It certainly feels like something that may get bipartisan support. Again, back to the marketability of puppies and kittens. Everybody wants to go back to
Hmm.
their constituents and claim that win. But as of today, it's a post-tax benefit category.
I'm so glad you brought that up. So yeah, it's not going to be on your 5,500 forms because it's post-tax.
Yeah,
But I love the idea of some pre-tax benefits for pets. That's awesome. I have to keep my eye out for that one, Aaron.
yeah.
Any other questions, guys? We really, really appreciate you joining. Feel free to drop them in as I'm kind of wrapping up here. But really appreciate your time today. I hope you were able to get a snack or get lunch during this time. I hope the information was helpful. We do have a pretty regular webinar series here at Nava, so watch out for that on LinkedIn. Keep your eye out for what's next here. We really try to pick topics that are meaningful and timely. And always appreciate folks joining. So tomorrow again, we will send out the slides as well as the recording. So feel free to listen to that and share it amongst your peers. And we really just hope you have a great day, a great week, and hope your fluffy friends are doing well today. I'm going to take a quick break and take mine for a little short walk, and I hope you can as well. But Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate having you and UPC here with us today.
Thanks for having me, Kristie and Autumn, and thanks everybody for joining.
Have a good day.